All right. All right, all right, all right. Time is just a flat circle.
I like that.
Do a little Matthew McConaughey for you guys. Welcome. Thank you.
All right, so we are streaming online.
We are
Yeah,
streaming?
man, you too.
We're streaming the
All right.
went to the wide shot.
To the Y. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Lone Star Mixer 11.
Hey!
Everyone having a good time? Good show?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you to our sponsors. We have Gotham Sound, Nick Houston here,
TK in the back. Where's
TK in the back. Visit them. We'll also have Jack Klein and Tyler Faison of Vandalay Sound, also our hosts and sponsors today. If you don't know them, get to know them.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are hosting a panel today, How Freelancers Can Build Retirement Savings. I'm your host, moderator, Christopher Bigbie. Who I am and what I do is not important, but what these guys do and who they are is. So,
Christopher is the owner of Dependable Expendables, by the way.
oh yeah, that part is important. That part is important. But beyond contributing to the conversation, these are your subject matter experts today. And thank you, Jack, for the plug. Appreciate that. Reciprocal. So, I'm going to let these gentlemen introduce themselves one by one. We can start on either end, and we can get the conversation started. While they are introducing themselves, we want this to be an interactive experience. We want to hear from you guys. So, think about questions that you may have about retirement and saving for retirement. This is the perfect time to ask that question, get some insight. And so we want to hear from you guys and get a chance to respond to that. So, Nick, you want to start? Nick Houston.
Sure, great. So I'm Nick Houston. I'm the sales manager at Gotham Sound and Communications, New York. I love coming down here. This is like my 10th year besides COVID, so I don't know, 8, 9? I can't do math. So anyway, that being said, for this panel, I'm going to be moderating the online discussion. And I'll chime in if I have anything to say, but I'm going to defer to the expert to my left.
Thank you. My name is Justin Cleveland. I'm a financial planner. I've worked with Tyler and Jack we were talking about it, 15 years or so. At our age, we think it's been 7 or 8, but it's been 15 years. And so I do some work with a lot of folks in your industry. I've been in the financial planning business for 20 years. And I'm here local. I live in McKinney. Married, 3 kids, hard to believe, but 14, 10, and 7. So I'm on loan. I don't usually have 3 beers on Sunday afternoon, but this is going to be fun. So looking forward to taking your questions, easy or hard. Nice to meet everybody.
I'm Jack with Vandalay Sound Exports. Tyler is my business partner, like Justin said. We've been working with Justin for the last however long, trying to get ready for retirement. And the reason that I am on this panel is because I am so ready to retire. I used to, there's a lot of people here that can sort of attest to this. I used to always be the youngest person on the set, and it was fun because I'm tiny. I'm like the size of a 9-year-old girl, so it all sort of worked. I was the youngest, and I was small and cute. And now I'm in this transitional phase where I'm now just like old and weird, and it's like it's very different. And so I am ready to retire, which is why I'm on this panel. Justin has been helping me prepare for this for the last several years, so hopefully I can get there in the next couple of years.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right. So, to kind of set a little bit of the context for this conversation, in recent years, the whole gig economy, cell phones, people being able to have side hustles, has created this whole kind of gig economy worker situation where more and more people are working on their own, but they're not saving and planning for retirement because they don't have the same tools as a traditional W-2 job used to afford. Now, that's not to excuse everyone in this room. You guys are the original gig economers to begin with. And so conversations are starting to happen about how can people save and how can people say, put away for retirement. And so one of the statistics that I came across, and I know lots of people who aren't even in this business who are ill prepared for the future, right? And so the U.S. Federal Reserve in 2003 said 1 in 4 non-retired adults have nothing saved for retirement. And so 25% of people, that's not just our industry, that's just countrywide. That's kind of scary. And so how do we do it, guys? I mean, everyone has different stories, different positions, how they got to where they are. What's the best way to save for retirement?
I just want to start real quick by saying that, like, especially for us in this industry, we always have to sort of self-insure, whether that be, sort of medical insurance or retirement. But I think the smartest thing that I have ever done was get someone that actually knew what the hell they were talking about, like Justin, to sort of guide me through it so that I could be as prepared as possible. So Justin is sort of the star of this whole panel. The rest of us are just sort of here to nod and go, yeah, like do what that fucker said.
So Justin,
Yeah.
how can people in this industry
So a
got
good start to
1099s?
that would be, so I'm actually just like you. I mean, I'm self-employed, right? I'm a partner. Our firm's called Belvin, Cleveland and Associates. I'm the Cleveland. And whenever you have a partner, a lot of times you think alike and sometimes you don't. But I don't have, an entity above me handing me money. Like, I've got to form my own plan. I've got to save my own money. There are retirement plans that make sense for me that could be perfect fits for you or maybe not, depending on whether you have employees. But I have a W-2 and like 12 different 1099s. My tax return is an entire book in and of itself, and it's something that I'm not going to deal with. I slide that over to the CPA. So when it comes to retirement, I think starting early is something that if you're younger, I'm about to be 42, so I'm going to say if you're 42 and younger, you're young, start early. Do something. It could be start by saving 6 months of your living expenses in case you have an emergency. Or the long-term job that you booked decides that we're not going to do the show anymore and you need some cash, because we don't want to then take a short-term temporary emergency and move it into a situation where now you're taking money out of your retirement account for 20 years from now and doing irreparable damage. So financial planning is a process that involves both short-term, mid-term, and long-term planning. And that's something that we can help you with. It's nice if you have some money in the bank today. It's nice if you have money 30 years from now when you're ready to retire, but what about all the years in between? So it's a fun conversation that's typically different. So one of the limitations I have today is I can be very broad and somewhat vague, but can't say, hey, you need to do exactly this, because public forums aren't perfect for that. But, private meetings, we can be very specific on, what would make the most sense, depending on your situation.
Go ahead.
Is there a, for someone looking to retire, like Jack, for instance, is there a formula to figure out how much money you need to have either in a retirement account or in your mattress in order to be able to do that? Is there some kind of guideline there?
Great question. So one of the things that we do that I think is really helpful to answer that is we take a look at what do you want to spend, when do you want to retire, and then essentially when do you want to die, right? Those are the main things that matter. And then we're going to put together an idea, okay, this is how much you need to accumulate in order to be able to maintain that. And the reality is, with your stats, a lot of people are short. They don't have enough. And so the next question is, well, what do we do about that? There's only a few things you can do. You can get a higher rate of return on your money. You can spend less money. It's not popular. No one wants to do that. You can save more money. We like to push that as a better option. Or literally, you can just die earlier. That's it. There's only 4 things you can do to eliminate a shortage in retirement. And so we try to focus more on, asset location so that you have a smaller tax bill when you go to take money out. Return, make sure you're invested properly from a risk standpoint, and also make sure you're saving enough. We try to avoid the die earlier, and we try to avoid spending less if we can, because, I mean, no one really wants to do that, usually. Most people like to maintain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to tweak Justin's mic real quick because
Yeah.
I'm a sound.
Also, we have a question here. If there's
my
a
first time
microphone,
with
we can get.
microphone.
Go ahead and stand up, Daryl. Right. Hold on up.
So, the reality is, every one of us that are a little bit younger know that those that are a little bit older would say, I will never fucking retire. So, answer that. Like, whenever, like, you were saying all the things about, like, when I will retire. Like, I don't ever want to retire. I never want to retire. So, how do you save for the times? Well, that's the thing, is like the body will force you to retire, as she just said, but like most people don't want to. So
Yeah.
how do you save when you're in it to like continue as long as possible?
Think of it as an opportunity to just to have your mic drop moment where you have the financial capacity to work less, whether that means work 40 hours or 20 hours. You have enough financial capacity where you can do what you want to do. That is what I mean when I say retire. Because the reality is, like, you know, at 42, I don't expect I'm going to work to be 80, but I might want to work with people that I like part-time when I'm old. I like you, so we'll still talk. But, you know, the reality is we all get to a point where maybe we shouldn't be working anymore, right? And then sometimes, I know there's a question in there about illness and stuff like that, but sometimes your body tells you you're retired even though your bank account or your desire to retire isn't ready. And so that's a factor that we've got to keep in mind too, is when I mean retire, I just mean have the capacity to make your own decisions about how you spend your time. And we do a lot of planning with people on, okay, you're going to retire, what are you going to do now? You can't garden 12 hours a day. You got to have a plan for how you're going to spend your time. And so that's another part of it that's intangible for some of us today, but you know, it's an important part of retirement planning as well, separate from money.
I could garden 12 hours a day.
That's a lot
In
of hard
Wichita Falls, it's a dry period.
But I also think it's important that in this industry, since there is no safety net, like we all have to take a little bit of personal responsibility with our retirement. And that means, like, okay, you're bringing in X amount of dollars per month right now. Well, you can't spend all that. Like, you got to save some of that. But what's important is what you do with that part that you save, that part that you're not spending. And I think that the smart thing to do is to get with someone like Justin that knows what the fuck to do with that money, right? Because, like, nobody's going to gift us anything. We don't have retirement plans in this business. So it's our responsibility to not spend everything that we make and allocate a certain percentage of that for our retirement, and be smart with that and consult someone with like Justin to figure out what we should do with that.
Yeah. I know there's a difference like between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. They have different tax consequences. Can you explain a little bit about that and, you know, the different kind of vehicles that people may have available to them to achieve what Jack's talking about?
Yeah. Simply put, a traditional IRA is pre-tax. That's a fancy way of saying if you make 50 grand a year and you put $7,000 into a traditional IRA, you're going to pay tax to the government as if you made 43. Okay, so you're reducing your taxable income. Those dollars can then accumulate and grow over time without tax. So if you're 25, that means you've got 30 or 40 years where that money can grow without tax. Now the downside is with a traditional IRA, you can't take money out without tax and penalty until you're 59 and a half years old. Okay, some of you are like, that's not a big deal. Some of you can't even pretend to think what 59 and a half looks like. I'm where I can see it, like I get it. Okay, another downside, in my opinion, of pre-tax is you're going to pay taxes on those dollars at whatever the tax rates are in the future. So we have no way of knowing if those tax rates will be higher or lower. My personal thought is it's going to be way higher. We got 34 trillion in national debt. It's not a political issue. It's a lot of debt. It's got to get paid. The way it gets paid is by people that make money. So if you have earned income or you have wealth, you're paying for it. So that's where the Roth becomes a huge benefit, is it has the same $7,000 maximum. You don't get a deduction. So if you make 50 grand and you put 7,000 in your Roth, you're still paying tax on that 50 grand. So instead of buying cases of this, you bought future retirement. The government looks at it the same way. You don't get any savings today. But those investments grow tax-free, and then you can pull it out tax-free. So regardless of who's running the country in 30 years, all the money you've accumulated is exempt from tax.
That's my biggest fear in my retirement plan, is the tax liabilities of,
Yep.
my assets. 'Cause it's just nerve-wracking, and property tax. I mean, that I think is tax planning is also a big part of planning for retirement.
Absolutely, because you could have $1 million in a pre-tax traditional IRA, $750,000 in a Roth IRA, and have the same spendability because that Roth is exempt from tax.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to look at in a planning meeting, is not only how much do we need to accumulate, but where does it need to be located? Because you can have the same retirement, in some cases saving $700 a month versus saving $1,000 a month if one of those accounts is exempt from tax or another one may be taxable. So that's the dork side of what I do, which is very little.
No,
A Roth,
stand by. Yeah.
That's a Roth?
a Roth would be the tax-free option.
And is that tax-free at the time that you invest
Distribute
it?
when you take it out.
But it's taxed when you invest it, when you earn it?
Yes, you don't get any savings up front on the taxes.
When
Yeah,
you-
and I use this as an example. A perfect retirement account would be to get a tax deduction up front, grow it tax-free, pull it out tax-free. Well, that doesn't exist. And if you try to create that, you're going to go to jail. So we're going to keep you out of jail, but try to focus at the back end. How do you keep as much of your wealth as possible?
Jail is one other kind of retirement plan, though.
It's
Three
totally
meals a
free.
day.
Yeah,
It's
no
an-
bills.
An
an
option
option.
for some. Yes, an option
I saw an
for
article
some.
the other day. Some jails let you have a cat now. If you have good behavior, you get a cat.
Sounds great.
Wow.
I don't
I
like
need
cats.
my accountant and my financial planner to be just crooked enough. Just right there on the line.
And the CPA too, yeah. So when I was freelance, my accountant recommended I use a SEP IRA.
Ooh, good one. I was going to answer that
could
or
say a
get
little
into
bit
that.
about that.
Okay, so SEP stands for Simplified Employee Pension. It's an IRA specifically for people that are self-employed, okay? One of the limitations we talked about a few minutes ago about traditional and Roth is a $7,000 annual limit. So if you make 50 grand a year, you can put in 7,000. If you make 5 million a year, you can put in 7,000. There's no flexibility. What I love about the SEP is it's, again, for only self-employed persons. You can put up to 25% of your revenue into the SEP pre-tax, up to $69,000 a year. So if you make, again, I'm sure we have a range of incomes here, but if you make $100,000 a year, you can put $25,000 into a SEP pre-tax and pay tax today as if you made 75. It's a huge benefit. If you work for a large company, you can't do that. You have to use a 401k if they offer it. So a SEP is a huge opportunity for the self-employed person to put away huge sums of money pre-tax, okay? Another thing I love about the SEP, which may appeal to some of you, is a SEP is the only retirement plan that lets you fund it up until October for the previous tax year. So some of you have a lot of jobs and are working a ton from, say, March to September, and then you have a slow downtime towards the end of the year. You can take money that you earned in 2024 and offset what you owe for taxes for 2023, and a SEP is the only plan that lets you do that. So it's a huge opportunity from a planning standpoint. I see it a lot too with a lot of people I work with in real estate, right? No one buys a house in November. So these people are making tons of money in the summer, and then they're, don't have anything the rest of the year. We use a SEP. We use the money they make from the summer to reduce the taxes they owe from the year before if they file an extension in April.
Gotcha.
So I'm a big fan of the SEP for the right person. Now it has the same negatives on the back end. All the distributions are taxable, like the traditional IRA. But if you've got to save a bunch of money up front,
So if you're looking at a big tax bill and you want to offset it some, you can offset some of that revenue and shift,
and
right?
I will say this though about the SEP. If you have employees, it's not as popular because and then I have to distinguish between employees you like, employees you don't like. If you have a SEP and you have an employee that's worked for you for 3 years or more, if you put in 20% of your revenue, you have to put in 20% of what they earn for them. So it better be your wife or your husband or your kid, because, I mean, I like everybody I work with. That's a big number, right? So a SEP is ideal for the person that's self-employed and they're the only employee. But if you have a few employees that you really want to attract and retain, it could be a good fit too.
Yeah.
But you put in all the money for them. They don't put any money in. Make sense?
Which I mean, so many of the people in our industry, I mean, we are freelance. We are a company of one.
You're it.
And so in that way, you know, if you have a banner year, and let's get the microphone over here for Daniel. But yeah, if you have a banner year and you want to sock some money away, putting $25,000 in an account, letting it grow, and then taking the tax hit later on the growth.
Hey, Tyler.
Can we get the microphone? We have a question. Can production pay attention back there? If they not run such a sloppy show. You get what you pay for. And I'm just kidding. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, putting the show on. I'm just giving Tyler a hard time. All right. Go ahead, please.
No, so my question was just like, I'm sorry, I did not mean to interrupt any of that, because that was beautiful. And so my question was just simply, how do we get a Justin in our market? Like, how do we get a homie that like is like freaking like hooking us up, right? Because like that's the thing is like, I've learned shit that I never knew right now, right? Like, so like, I mean, I think all of us need that.
So, I mean, I would answer that pretty simply. You just need a normal person who will talk to you about difficult concepts in a way that makes sense. If you tried to explain to me what you do, I'm going to stare at you with a blank stare. I need it in like 6th grade language. And that's not because I'm not intelligent, it's because I don't do what you do. And so I try to take concepts that are confusing to some people, confusing to a lot of people, and turn it into a way that you could go home and tell your wife, hey, this is what he thinks we should do, and here's why, and it makes sense.
But also, like, I will just say, like, you can just have a Justin. Like, I don't think it's market specific. Like, you can actually just have a conversation.
This
with
Justin is available for
Right.
$29.95. Take home today.
And here's the thing, like, we go way back, but I do totally trust Justin. That doesn't mean that every time that Justin says, hey, man, I think that this might fit for you and Tyler, that doesn't mean that we buy into everything that he offers.
That's
right?
true.
Like, Tyler and I, so for example, Justin will come to us and say, hey, I think that you guys need this, and it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. Well, we're like, okay, Justin, we'll call you back, right? And then Tyler and I have a conversation. We're like, all right, that's going to cost whatever, $5,000 or $7,000 or $10,000. But there's also this whole other side of like ensuring your retirement, right? Like Tyler used to own a snow cone truck.
Snow cone patrol.
Snow cone patrol?
Because he was like, hey, for $10,000 I can get this product from Justin, or for $10,000 I can buy a snow cone truck and it's going to generate this amount of money, right? So there's not just one specific product that's always going to work. Like maybe it just sort of depends on how much effort you want to put into it. But I think the what it comes down to is that like you have to invest something for your retirement. If you just want to put up money and not any effort, then Justin has a ton of stuff that you can do to make money. If you want to put up some money, maybe not as much, but you're willing to put in some effort to it as well, then maybe it's another business that you can start on the side, a side hustle, for example. But like, you know, Tyler's had a snow cone truck. He's developed apps, all sort of other little gadgets to help with the retirement. But, you know, if you just want to put up some money and not put any effort, then Justin has a ton of different options to help you get there.
And
I think
real
it's just
quick,
having somebody
Justin.
that can look out for your best interests, and then you're going to weigh the benefit of, okay, that guy's telling me all the worst things that can happen and how I can plan for it, and then you decide how you want to approach that. You have an advocate.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say we met Justin through my real estate agent. So like, just it's all about every time you talk, just talk to somebody and ask around, and they'll find you a good person. It
And
doesn't really
Justin
matter the
doesn't get
industry.
butthurt whenever we tell him no, by the way.
I don't care at all.
I mean, you're talking about your money and your future. You want to find somebody you trust, right? And somebody you vibe with, and somebody who, a homie.
Yeah.
Homie's got your back, right?
This harkens back a little bit to what we were talking about last year, which is I didn't expect to draw a parallel, but last year we were talking about when to upgrade, like when to do this. And it feels like what we're saying here is it's a personal decision based on, what it is you want for your plans and what makes sense for you. So maybe $5,000 in an IRA this year makes sense. Maybe buying a new wireless makes sense. Maybe, socking it in a mattress. I'm big into the mattress. Makes sense. But, it really is, it's a personal thing, and having a financial planner to talk it through is a good thing.
Yeah, I was going to say this about the plan. We've talked a little bit about IRAs and specific types of retirement vehicles, but it all needs to go back to a financial plan, because a financial plan is just a plan. It's like an architect would give you a plan. Yeah, you're going to build the house how you want to build it, and then you're going to be like, yeah, and I also have a budget, so we got to cut that out. I get it. So the architect works for you, the financial planner works for you, but they're gonna shoot you straight. I could say objectively, you need to save this amount to get this outcome, but the assumptions that we build in have to be monitored. We all have lived through a period of very high inflation, right? Well, when inflation gets back down to normal, it's easier to run these plans. I'm not going to run a financial plan with 10% inflation. We're all going to crash and burn under that scenario. But it needs to be monitored. So we update those plans annually for people because a lot of the underlying assumptions change.
Well, that's
Okay.
true. In our career, I mean, especially in Dallas, your career can go through a variety of different evolutions. You could be on staff W-2 for a studio for a handful of years for what you're doing. Then you might find yourself freelance for a few years. And oftentimes, and then you might be married to somebody who has access to a 401k that you mentioned earlier. And all those different circumstances create different reasons for different strategies and how you can maximize your scenario, right? And so you're saying that you can run with those kind of, those evolutions when people's careers changes and when they, things are going well, you can direct them to do things with planning for the future.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Questions? Who we have?
Don't forget to talk about the HSA and how you can use that as like a backup retirement as well.
There you go. HSA, health savings account. As simply put as possible, an HSA is an example of that illegal retirement plan that I talked about earlier, where you get all three. You get the tax deduction up front, you get the tax deferred growth on the dollars, and you can pull it out tax-free for health care costs. And so if you have access to an HSA, I'm a huge fan of that because there's nothing else like it.
That's a.
Right, say that again into the mic for the
But when
people
you
listening.
retire, you can take out the money for non-health purposes. You just have to pay income tax on it.
That's true. There's also,
Like,
you know,
like a backup retirement as
And-
well if you don't need all of it.
also
what do you
remember
mean
there's
by
no
if you
HSA
have
police,
access?
So
But
as long as you don't get audited, you're fine.
You need a certain type of health care plan to have access to it.
HSAs are employer benefit though, right? You can't
Correct.
get that as a freelancer.
Yeah, like I don't have that as an individual, but
Well, all right, so hold on. I'm
hold
going to
on.
give Lauren a shout out
I'm
real
also
quick because I
not an
know
expert
that
on HSA.
You can get one as a freelancer. I just signed up for this healthcare plan with the Healthy Business Group. It's called HBG Solo, and it's a plan if you're a single member LLC, like you can just give them your EIN to prove that you own a business and that you're the only employee, and they give you plans, and as long as you have the like a certain amount of deductible, it qualifies for an HSA, and you can open one as well. So I think that the HSA requirement is that it has to have a deductible between two certain amounts. So I think kind of any kind of plan can qualify for that. You just have to check with the plan that you have.
Can I give you a shout out because we know each other from New York. Lauren has a really interesting side hustle where she's a working mixer, has been for a long time, but for the slow periods, she maintains a job at Amazon where she can like duck in, duck out, have some extra income, and that's her side hustle.
Wait for the microphone, please.
Yeah.
Just
They-
keep it, Tyler.
Amazon also, even though I only work there like 20 hours a month, they still give me access to a 401k, and they let me choose if I want a traditional or a Roth or a combination of both. So I just put, if I'm really slow, then I put less into the 401k, but like when I feel like I'm making enough money, I just work there and I just like put it all into the 401k.
Yeah.
So I have like a couple thousand a year.
What's
from-
the match on it? Do you know what the match is?
Well, I don't vest the match because I don't work there enough. You need to work at least 1,000 hours a year for 3 years to have it vest. I work like 1,000 hours every 5 years. I'm barely ever there, but it's like I have it for when I need it. So the match is really bad. It's like 50% for up to 4%. So it's not great, but like I said, the match hasn't vested yet because I don't work there enough. But it's just great that I have access to it. Especially a Roth 401k is very rare. So to be able to put an additional $22,500 into like in a tax-free way when I retire, I get to take that out tax-free. That's great because the Roth IRA is only up to $7,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. Justin, how about that? Because sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where we do have access to a 401k, or a spouse has access to a 401k.
Yep.
And the whole employee match. I mean, I've always looked at that as leaving money on the table if you don't take advantage
Oh,
of
for
that.
sure. Yeah, you always get the match money. That's
Yeah.
a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that tells you otherwise, just fire that person.
Just
yeah.
there's your litmus test right there.
Get the free money. But understand too that as an individual, if you are a sole proprietor, you can also set up a solo 401k plan. You can have a Roth option with that 401k plan. It has a lot of perks. It's a little bit more expensive because you have to hire a third-party administrator to keep you legal, and that can cost $1,000 a year. So one of the benefits you mentioned is having a huge company cover all that for you is awesome, so be able to use that. So that same vehicle, you can choose that as a person who's self-employed, but it may not be the right fit, depending on the extra costs and if you're cool with that. But what I really love about the Roth 401k is it doesn't have an income limit. In order to fund a Roth IRA, if you're married, you've got to make under about $220,000 a year, and it's about $140,000 if you're single. Well, if you make over that, you can't do a Roth IRA anymore. So a Roth 401k doesn't have that rule. You can make $1 million a year and still max out a Roth 401k. So pretty much everybody I meet with, if they have a Roth 401k at their job, I'm telling them to max that out before they do any separate investments with me, because they have access to a fantastic option that costs them very little.
Yeah. And like I said, you know, our careers go through all these ups and downs. I mean, just different things happen. Different things are available and not available. Does anybody else have another question or hold on, another, wait for the microphone, huh? Well, for our audience at home, so they can hear you. Yes.
I just said, what about the backdoor Roth?
So the backdoor Roth is an option as long as you don't have IRA money separate. So you have to have just 401k money in order to be able to do the backdoor Roth. And so what that means for a lot of people, in really a lot of industries, is they end up having multiple 401ks at previous employers, and they leave the money there so that they can continue to do a backdoor Roth. So it is an option. We do have clients that we do backdoor Roths for. It's usually kind of a pain for some of those people, but at the end of the day, it's still a good option as long as you don't have separate traditional IRA money, and you can get in trouble.
I think we have a question from Doug.
If you're retired on Social Security, are there any plans where you can offset income from a taxable perspective?
You're retired and on Social Security?
Social Security, can you
Okay.
contribute to these plans? Or a plan, self-employed wise?
Do you have income?
Yes, pension and Social Security.
So, you could still continue to do IRAs. I mean, you're not forced to take money out of an IRA until you're 73. So that's when the required distribution starts. So at least up until 73, you can continue to do some pre-tax retirement stuff through an IRA.
So the SEP 25% would be the maximum you could write off?
It's of your revenue. Yep.
Revenue?
Yeah, revenue minus expenses.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, so sorry.
Let's pass the mic
Better
down
said
here
net
to-
profit.
I've
Revenue
been, I've been,
minus
I've been
expenses.
fired.
Sorry about that.
These two assholes over
Yeah.
here on the audio panel.
Smoking and joking, playing a game of crab ass.
So, my question is, this is my first mixer. I've been in the business for a little while, but like, I'm young and old. I'm like 44 years old, but I know I work with a lot of people that are older than me, a whole lot older than me. But I work with a lot of people that are younger than me. So my point is, all those that are older than me, what do you wish you had known when you were 44 years old that you don't know now? And like, what can you tell me that I need to do right fucking now?
Right here, buddy.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like in this industry, we go from making like $150 a day as a PA to making $1,000 a day at some other group position. What you can't do is spend all of it. Period. That's all. That's the whole thing right there. And like, I'm not very good at that. Like whatever I make, I spend. So fortunately, I have a business partner, Tyler. We started a company together. He is my voice of reason. We have sacrificed. So from a long time ago, we put ourselves on very conservative salaries relative to what we actually generate as a company, right? But what that does is that takes it out of my hands, because it doesn't matter if I bring home $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year or $150,000 a year. I'm gonna fucking spend it. So what we did was we set up our company so that I get paid only a percentage of what we generate, right? And the rest of that goes into investments for our retirement, a variety of investments through Justin or through commercial real estate or through a fucking snow cone truck or whatever, man. Like, it doesn't matter. Just take it out of my hands, because if it's in mine, I'm going to spend it. So the point of that is you go from making $150 a day to making $1,000 a day or $1,500 a day, but you can't spend all that, and you have to take some personal responsibility and put some of that aside somewhere else so that you can save it for your retirement. And someone like Justin can tell you exactly what to do with it. Or you can look at the numbers and go, man, I can give Justin 10 grand and I can have a payoff here, or I can buy a snow cone truck and I can make way more with the snow cone truck. But like, you just got to weigh those options. But the point is, you can't spend all of it, and you got to take some personal responsibility.
I would add something to that about how I think a good financial advisor views their role. It's like a coach. And I will say this for myself. I hope that for people that own a business, I hope that they view what we're doing for them as a good long-term investment, but nowhere near their best investment. Your best investment should be your business, yourself, right? The highest rate of return that I earn on my balance sheet is my business, what I do, right? So what I want to look at is look at not only tax planning and asset location and how your money's invested, but we have to look at the risk level. The reality is, when you own a business, that's one of the riskiest things you can do. The only reason you're doing it is for the potential payoff. So you need a financial planner who's got a baseline of assets that are nowhere near that risky, right? Some of my very best clients have a large percentage of their net worth in something completely unrelated to what I do, because that's their knowledge base. And the reason why I love it, I'm like, yeah, go make millions over there. Eventually you're going to quit, or your wife or husband's going to tell you to quit, and then that money's going to come to us to manage when they're looking for something, chill. So, I love the business owner mentality. I live it every day, and, you shouldn't have all your investments with our firm. You should be doing things separate.
Well, and I know I keep on mentioning this snow cone truck, partially because it's funny, but it's also true. But like, we didn't own 6 snow cone trucks. We just had 1 snow cone truck and then 5 other investments with Justin, right? It's like, sort of, you can't go all snow cone truck and no,
Just
and no
diversification.
Justin.
You can't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
I don't think legally we can call it Justin investments.
We're calling it Justin.
Let's get a microphone here. Yep.
Is there anyone else here that has to add to that is over the age of 50 or 55? Because like that's what I'm saying is like literally like, you know, I mean I'm older than some that ask me for advice and I'm like, well, fuck it, I don't know, because I'm just trying to figure this shit out. So like, does somebody have like some ideas?
Also, real quick, Michael Haines was supposed to be on this panel, but he got COVID. He is, as many know, he's a mixer here in town. He retired from location stuff, but still does some studio. He would have been the perfect place. But real quick, David Stevens here is the owner of Texas Ale Project. His son, David Stevens, is a mixer here in town. But
nice.
he'd probably give us a couple pieces of advice.
Well, the best advice I can do is thank you everybody for being here. Appreciate it. One more year. And for my input for financial advice, drink more beer.
Anybody here in the union that has any sort of savings plan that might be different from what we've all talked about? Is that applicable? Okay.
I guess the only one thing I
Kind of,
want to
not
say.
really. I am a member of the union. I have some sort of savings plan, but I'm not really super active. But yeah, it's another avenue.
Yeah. When I first got into the business, I asked one of the mixers from Law and Order, you know, what advice he had. Thought, you know, maybe he'd tell me what.
Way to drop it. Law and Order. Ka-kang.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, thinking he'd be like, oh, you got to get this microphone, or you got to do this, or you're going to say this, and he was like, get out while you can. So the thing that I take to heart about that, and hearing about the snow cone truck and everything else, it's like, whatever you're going to do what lights you up so you can keep doing it. You know, like if you love sound, like do sound as long as you can. And then, you know, get your snow cone truck. Whatever sounds interesting and sounds cool to you, that is going to make you money going forward. You know, I think a lot of times the reason why he said get out while you still can is that at the time he was kind of grumpy about being a sound person and wished he'd pursued other things. And I think that his advice would be like, pursue what you really want to do and make money in what you really want to do.
So is that your takeaway from this? Is
Yeah.
your snow cone truck?
Get your snow cone truck, absolutely. Don't crash it. That's the part nobody said.
Oh, Tyler bankrolled
Here,
on the crash of
well,
the snow cone
so-
truck. By the way,
so-
It went
Yes, I
flying
had
off
a
the
snow
bridge or
cone truck.
something.
We did an event catering snow cone truck. I rented it out to a production as a picture car in the winter season when we weren't using it. And their transpo department totaled it, and I cashed out on insurance, and that was my exit strategy.
Nice. There we go.
Another important topic about insurance and you know,
100%
making sure
true.
you're properly insured for life, you know, life insurance, right?
The stuff. Yeah, so financial planning, retirement, you know, there's also a component there of what we call risk management, stuff you don't want to talk about, but, you know, I've got 3 kids and a dog, so the fact is, you know, if I veer off on the way home today, they're going to need food tomorrow. And so another part of financial planning that we do is we help people with life insurance, disability. I know, especially with what you guys do, it's very physically demanding. I've been doing this for 20 years, and so I've had 7 clients pass away. One of them was my 3-month-old nephew. I've had numerous clients become disabled, whether it be cancer, car accidents. So when you're thinking about financial planning for retirement, one of the things that we do is we point out, hey, things can go off, not necessarily of your own doing. Things happen. So you may be saving very well for retirement, get diagnosed with lung cancer, and burn through 20 years of savings in 3 years. So there's an element there of risk management that is super important for any business owner who's not being given these benefits as a part of their, you know, package, working for the man.
And that says a lot about managing your own health too. I mean, making sure that you're exercising, you're making sure that your body's in good shape so you can keep running around with the bag, keep doing the long hours if you need to do that. Not eating terribly.
Why
Jack.
are you looking at me, man? Why are you looking at me? Just because I smoke and I eat terrible?
I mean,
Barbecue today.
if the shoe fits.
Bullshit.
Yeah, so it's not like you don't have to be perfect, but it really is like you're taking care of yourself for when you're 70 and 80.
Okay, so we talked about disability insurance.
Well, he
yet?
just brought it up.
Oh, well, I was in the
While
bathroom.
you're in the bathroom,
Okay,
taking
all
care
right.
of business.
Well, insurance in general, yeah. Just, yeah. Did you have something to add?
Yeah, so Justin, Tyler and I both have or have had disability insurance. It's certainly not a bad idea, especially for those of us that work in a physical industry. That being said, there are sort of limitations to it. Whenever I got the disability insurance, no, I'm not going there yet.
Oh, okay.
I will though. Whenever I first got the disability insurance, like my low back was excluded. So like, we work in television. I had seen a chiropractor at some point in my life, and so like there were exclusions as far as that goes. But like disability insurance is something like really wise for us. Like, what is it, like 70% or 80% of your previous year's income? I forget exactly.
Sounds about right. You're never going to get 100%, then you'd have a nice financial incentive to get hurt. It is a fact. When the economy's down, disability claims spike. But the simple way you need to understand is, do you need disability insurance or not, in my opinion, is if you need to go to work tomorrow because you can't live off of your assets you've accumulated, you ought to have income protection.
For like an hour.
If you are retired or you have enough in your investments that you can retire, you don't need disability insurance. The whole point of disability insurance is to protect your income. So a lot of people here be smart to make sure their income's protected.
And here's the thing, look, fool, if you're wearing headphones 16 hours a day and you go deaf, then you can no longer do your job. And so that's kind of the way that I looked at it was, I would,
Surprise.
80% of my income for indefinitely is pretty good if I end up going deaf.
Oh,
That
your
means,
point about the percentage?
Uh-huh.
For self-employed people, they're going to average 3 years of your tax returns, and they're going to look at it on an after your overhead expenses. So, simple math: you make $100,000 of revenue, you're like every other business person. You try to write off as much of that as possible. It's really good for tax savings, but really bad for disability insurance because they're only going to cover your income after your overhead. The thought is, if you're disabled, you're not writing off meals with clients and miles and all of that. You're just taking home that net number. So that is also a limit.
that being said, you guys are all my friends, so I'm going to level with you. They will test your PP for marijuana.
And sometimes it will
Now,
come
that
back
doesn't
positive.
mean they won't exclude you for it. They'll just ask you a couple of questions. It's fine.
It's confidential.
But, whatever. Just giving you guys a heads up.
We have a question over here. Yep.
Actually,
Glenn
just a
Connor.
comment. This is a war story, not a slam against financial planners or anything like
Oh,
that.
here comes Glenn from the back.
But I was with a particular financial planner for a long time. Fortunately, we didn't make enough to be a personal client of his. We were under one of his sub-planners in his office, which was a good thing. So my advice here is never write the check to your financial planner personally. He took his personal clients for millions.
That's a good point.
Always make the check out to the insurance company or the stock company or whatever.
Agreed.
Fair. Good advice.
That seems like good life advice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That looks like this one's going to you, Justin. How do you respond to that, sir?
I have never once been sued.
Well,
You're not
Just
trying
There's
hard
still
enough.
time.
just some sage advice from Glenn
That is
Connor,
good. I
ladies
like
and gentlemen. Any other questions? Anybody have other comments or questions? Right? So, how much should somebody be saving a month, Justin? Like on?
Thank you,
Is there kind of a sweet spot number that people should be saving every other month or putting away? That kind of.
It's a percentage, and it's a range. So first thing, basic advice: if you work for a W-2 company, save 3 to 6 months of your living expenses in a money market, cash reserve, emergency fund. If you're completely
How much did you say? 3 to 6?
3 to 6 months, yeah,
Okay.
at a minimum. If you're 100% self-employed and your jobs can go up, and I would save a year if you can. Okay, once you have that, your question about what should you be saving for retirement, it also depends on how old you are. If you're younger, you can save a smaller percentage, still get what you want. So we've got a range here of probably 22 to 60 or I don't know, 70, whatever. If you're in your 20s and 30s, my personal opinion, you should save at least 20% of your income. Okay, and here's why. I'm kind of a pessimist when I run financial plans. That's what you want. You want somebody running assumptions based on low return, high taxes, and a whole lot of you can't pick what you want to have happen for the next 40 years. That's what you want. So you're going to have a higher percentage of success the more you save. If you're older, it could be a lot more than that. Okay? It's not a dollar amount and it's not a percentage per se. It's an individual calculation based on the individual.
Yeah.
It's going to be very different.
Do we have a question here?
And
Oh, I'm sorry. We have one person in front of you. Sorry, Michael. Well,
one second.
we have one person in front of you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
So the question is, and from my vast experience, that a union doesn't put something away from, or you're not union, I don't know what the union does, but it's very, very, very important that when you set up your business, you pay yourself. So you've got a W-2, so you put it into Social Security. I got too many people that are 65 years old, never paid in because they were too cool. They have no income. So make sure you do everything with a W-2. You pay your Social Security, and you get a $3,000 check every month when you retire. Annuities are the other way to do it, which are awesome, and that's his job. But if you don't have anything in the union, and I don't know what it is, if anybody knows that, I'd like to hear it. But basically, make sure you pay yourself, pay the taxes, pay the Social Security, and then you got some at the end.
Right here. Michael?
You mentioned if you were a W-2 employee, save 3 to 6 months of income and put it into a
Money market or savings, just something that's easily accessible.
easily accessible.
Yeah, low risk.
Okay.
Yeah.
The idea is if you lose a job or, whatever reason, things happen, right? Your AC goes out. You don't want to be taking money out of your IRA in order to fix the AC. You want to have that emergency fund. Or if your job shuts down production, you're off for 3 months, you want to have that cushion.
Okay.
And the thought is, a lot of folks that are in W-2 jobs, W-2 is viewed as more stable. It doesn't necessarily mean that it will be, but you know what I mean. If you have a more stable, longer-term gig, you may not need as much of a cushion as, somebody who's flying around.
Thank you.
A lot of the people I work with in commercial real estate, they might get paid once a year. They like to have 1 to 2 years of their living in the money market. Because if they don't sell a building, they're not getting paid. So it's definitely industry specific.
All right. Any other questions?
We got time for about 2 more questions.
Great.
2 more questions. I can see it.
Miguel, are you ready to retire?
Are you prepared for retirement, Miguel?
Come here.
All right, Miguel. Here we go. First time, young voice. Here we go.
Tell everybody how old you are, and are you excited about retirement?
What's up, everybody? I'm 27. I'm planning for retirement. I already have almost 4K, about to be 8K in a Roth IRA. Although I will say I'm not too fond of my financial planner. I'm looking for other options.
What are you going to give
what's
me?
up? Nice to meet you, dog. But of course, I mean, real estate seems like the safest way to go. It's just such an incredible bar of entry.
I got a building I'll sell you, man. We'll talk later.
Anything that you can recommend for that, if possible?
Real estate specifically?
Yeah, if possible.
Certainly outside my specialty, but I own some real estate. I live there. So that might be a very easy way to start, is save money, buy a house, get out of the rent game, and then if it goes well, maybe you buy a second house, rent it out, I didn't buy my second house until last fall, and it's a lake house, but I want it to appreciate.
You rent it
No,
out?
I would, but we're not allowed to.
Okay.
But I would. And we're not
Gotcha.
allowed to because my wife won't allow us to.
Oh, your wife won't allow you to. All right, got
We
you.
go along with that. But I think real estate is certainly a great opportunity for appreciation. But you're right, there's a pretty significant barrier to entry. And I think it's something that makes sense to own as another alternative asset class. But just know that there are forces outside your control that affect real estate, whether it's interest rates, the economy, etc. But I challenge anybody to call up their grandmother if she's still alive and see if her house is worth less now than it was 30 years ago.
So I gotta go.
Hold on.
Equities go
He's
up.
hit a button on me here now. I object to the idea that home ownership is a path to wealth building. Home ownership.
Okay.
Yeah. Owning real estate and renting it out, that's a different story. But home ownership as a path to wealth, as wealth building, I think is a fallacy. I think you definitely can get your money back, but the appreciation of the dollar spent to acquire, maintain, and then liquidate, I think is kind of a bit of a fallacy. But I think it's a great way to hold on to equity, but it doesn't build equity.
Not like it used to anyway.
Not like it used to, 100%. Like, don't get me wrong, we own property, but we rent the property out, and that is, but just, I'm impressed with, I think you're on the right track. I applaud you, I think you're doing a great thing, and good for you, bro. Yeah.
Miguel, get a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. There's a new program out, 5% down. It's like FHA type thing.
I don't
So-
disagree with that. I think that's a great idea.
So
there's zoning for that?
Hold
There's
on.
zoning
I
for
have a
that?
question for Justin. Justin, what do you do to ensure your retirement? Like, what programs do you utilize? Do you have
Just personally,
yeah, like do you have outside investments? Do you have real estate in addition to your life insurance and your disability insurance
Right.
and your blah 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 ga? What the fuck do you do?
Can you give us the passwords to your accounts?
Yeah, like
if somebody follows me to my car after this, we're gonna have a problem. No. So, I mean, the funny thing is, I started in financial planning at 21, and
God, you nerd.
had nothing. I used to celebrate individually because I wasn't married, no kids, when I had a paycheck with a comma in it. Okay. I
That's
I
not
wanted
what
to
I
see
was
that
thinking
comma.
about at 21.
No, I was thinking about that, right? And so I started from that. I think we heard from the gentleman that owns this place. He mentioned, he said he used the word annuity, but annuity is just a private pension. It's essentially creating your own retirement paycheck. So I have some of that. I have two private pensions that I put money into every year. I use a joint investment account that I own with my wife that gives us access to cash between now and retirement. Huge advantages of liquidity. The downside is the capital gains taxes. Notice you can't get everything you want with one thing. You've got to spread it around. I have a bunch of life insurance that feeds the kids if I die, but I'm building up cash values in those policies that I have pledged as collateral to my bank. I now use that as a line of credit for my business. What that allows for me to do is grow my money safely, have access to it, and then I use the bank's money if I have a need for cash, and I let that money continue to grow. Our income is above that Roth limit, so we can't use a Roth. Otherwise, I would.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you. But I did use that for as long as I could. Like basically every year in my 20s and early 30s, I maxed that out. So that money's still going to grow tax-free, right? I just can't add to it once you're over that income limit. We have deferred compensation, which is like a 401k, but a little bit different. We have put money in my kids' college accounts.
Damn, man,
Yeah,
you're doing all sorts of
529.
stuff.
Diversified.
God, I'm being emasculated
Well, I mean,
over here, Justin.
But then I went crazy and got a lake house that I'm hoping is
You know
appreciated.
what? Good for you, buddy. I'm glad you got a lake house.
It's crazy.
So like.
But a boat is a bad investment. Don't buy
Okay,
it.
that's
Bad
fair.
investment.
So like
Get a friend with a boat.
Like if somebody was gonna take something away from this whole conversation, like to me, the takeaway is there's a variety of different things that you can do for to ensure your retirement.
Yeah.
But the takeaway is do something.
Yeah, but the largest asset that I have is my business.
Okay.
Belvin
All right.
Cleveland and Associates, and the 50% that I own, we're going to sell that one day. Okay, and so some of you
There
have
you go.
things that you can sell.
Sell that shit one day.
That's right.
Yep.
We're basically going to sell you. So make yourself worthwhile, right? But building relationships with people for 20, 30, 40 years is an asset that can be sold because people are buying trust, right? And so they're going to need that. Like, I can't be a financial advisor when I'm 80. Like, I've got other things I want to do. But the reality is, when I'm 80, you're going to be probably 85. Well, you're going to be dead before that, but you should be 85.
Being kind.
You're going to need somebody to help you with your investments at age 85, and
I
it's
think
not going to
Justin
be me.
just threw me straight under the bus.
Oh, you're making good choices. You're doing good.
All right, we got one more. Tyler,
Yeah. One quick announcement. Last call for your raffle tickets. Make sure you get your raffle ticket, split it in half, put it in the ballot box for the barbecue competition. That is where we are pulling the raffle tickets from. It is different from the previous 10 mixers. Take your raffle ticket, put it in the ballot box, and that's how we'll draw. This is the last point, really. And I was just talking with Stacy over here, who is a previous panel expert.
Expert?
Never. He's not been invited back since. And the point is, and I thought of this earlier, he mentioned it as well, start early. The earlier you get, it does not matter the dollar amount, whether it's $1, $100, $1,000, $10,000, whatever. The timeline is what is most important. That's my main takeaway.
Yeah, but here's the thing. There's a lot of us that are almost 50 that haven't really started
Yes,
at
and
this point.
to follow that up for your children, and because it's a gray, not a gray area, but that counts as much as it being good for you as it is good for them.
Yeah, it's basically like, if you haven't started, start now. If you already started, awesome. Keep going.
And I will also say, just get somebody smarter than you. Like, man, like, I love Justin. Justin's a buddy of mine. I totally trust this dude, and he doesn't get mad if he says, hey, you should do this, and I'm like, oh man, I would love to, but I just don't got the money to do it. Like, he has my best interest at heart. Find somebody like that and start as early as you can.
Yeah. Find somebody you trust. All right, we have Stacy.
So here's something that was suggested to me whenever I was young and I first had kids. I wasn't here. I'm sure you guys talked about 529 plans and all that. That's great. Definitely do that. I started my kids a car account when they were born. And the logic was, over the phone ringing. The logic is that at Christmas, the grandparents are going to give money to the kids, and they'll give them $20 or $50 or whatever, and it's going to get squandered on whatever. But if you tell the grandparents that they've got an account that we're saving for a car or their future or whatever, that money's going to become $100 or $500 or whatever, and it's not going to get spent, and it's going to get invested. And what we also did is that as the kids got older and they worked, we would say, if you put $20 into it, we'll match it, and then that will go into the account. And my daughter, who was very smart, got a job when she was probably 14 or 15 years old working as a camera assistant. And she'd come home at the end of the week and say, I got $450, Dad, I want to put in the account. Will you match it? We're like, all right.
There you go.
But now, we just recently looked at this at the first of the year. My daughter has an account that she has bought one car off of, and it's still worth $57,000.
Wow.
And it's in her name, and it'll continue to grow, and it's invested as aggressively as it possibly can.
Is she single?
No, she's just not married. She's just married.
Dang.
But that's the secret to starting early, is the theory of the guys can give you the math, but basically every 7 years, your portfolio doubles. 10,000 becomes 20, becomes 40, becomes 80. You add to it. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Get started today. Get started now.
All right, Lauren's got one last point, and this is it, and we'll go to the raffle drawings.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I don't have any kids, but I have 11 nieces and nephews, and since my dad died, he's like the one that kind of was giving them money at Christmas, so I kind of wanted to take that over. So I decided to give them each $100, but I'm teaching them to save some, spend some, and give some. So they each get $100, and depending on their age, the older they are, the more they get to keep, but the younger they are, the more they save. So, so let's say I give them $50 to spend on something that they want. I give them $40 to save in a savings bond account that their parents control. And then I give them a $10 charity gift card because I want to also teach people that, you know, you should give away some of your money too, give it back to somebody who's less advantaged. So I like that whole, like, every time, like, teach your kids, every time they get money, save some, spend some, give some. Like
Blood orange player.
All right.
All right.
Very good.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Jack. Go ahead, Christopher. That does it for us.
We're good. All right. We're going to go on to the drawing here. But thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panel. Thank you to our host. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Great questions,
Thanks, Chris.
everybody.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, everybody, for participating.
Justin.